Well, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 16:32 and welcome everyone here today. First, I'd like to make the acknowledgement that the District of Tofino operates in the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, and we are grateful for that. And a notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's exciting YouTube channel. And notice to the virtual attendees to sign up for a public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. And then to register, participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item they wish to speak to. And then further, the approval of the meeting location that pursuant to section 11.1 of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedures Bylaw number 1229/2016, the temporary facility provided for the public to watch and hear the November 12th, 2024 special council meeting is to be held in the multipurpose room, the Tofino Community Hall located at 351 Arnett Road in Tofino, BC. And I'm wondering if this will be the last one that we have in here, but anyways, and that the meeting is to be held electronically via Zoom and live broadcast at being the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. And I will move that the November 12th, 2024 regular council agenda be adopted. And on our consent agenda, it is a unique one, I will admit. And then I will move, if there are no objections, let's get right down there. I'll move that items 4.1 to 4.5 of the consent agenda on the regular council meeting held November 12th, 2024 be approved and received. Seeing no objections, motion carried. As far as mayor's report, Mayor Law is absent today, but I did want to touch on two things. One, I'm sure most people have heard today, the passing of former Premier Mike Horgan. And it is having the opportunity to have met him. He was a very genuine person and he will be greatly missed. And his public service was exemplary. And it is something that I know talking with many people here that they did feel he was one of those just genuine human beings. So he will be missed. And my condolences go out to his family for sure. And I did want to touch on also on yesterday's, we had an incredible Remembrance Day ceremony in the sense that, once again, I don't know why I'm shocked, but the numbers of people that come out is phenomenal. And it really is a community event. And it is somber in the remembrance, but at the same time, one of my favorite parts is when the Wiccaninish Community School Children's Choir comes up and sings a song of peace and remembrance. And that's always touching. And it was, once again, a great event for community event that really brings a lot of our community together. So that being said, I will look to staff here for public comment on agenda items.
Thank you, Chair Stere. I will now make an open call for comments to both members of the public present in the gallery and those participating online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to make a comment, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before making a comment, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to. I will now do a call calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No one signed up for comments.
So that moves us into delegations, and I do know we have one today. Brad, Tourism Tofino, regarding the 2025 Tourism Tofino Annual Tactical Plan and Budget. Welcome.
Yes. Well, thank you, Acting Mayor and Council, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to be here. I come here at least twice a year, and today we are forward-looking, not backwards-looking at 2025 and the tactical plan and the correlating budget that we've put together that's due to the province at the end of this month. So attached to the agenda is the full tactical plan. It's a weighty document. It's in 3 parts. The first part really just broadly outlines the 5-year strategic plan that Tourism Tofino is working from, which Council will be quite familiar with at this point. We are almost exactly halfway through the 5-year strategic plan. And that's where the 1-year tactical plan is taken from. So the middle section sort of lays out all of the tactics and objectives, and then the third section is the actual the numbers. And so as a quick refresher, I mean, we really have 3 main service delivery areas of tourism, our destination marketing, visitor services program, and destination stewardship, or One Destination BC equals destination and product experience management, which is a bit of a wordful. And then we have our admin function, So we'll jump straight into it. So for destination marketing, there's not huge changes from what you've seen in the last couple of years. From the strategic plan, our goal here is obviously to drive visitation outside of peak times. And I wanted to, because we are halfway through the strategic plan, just pause. Like there was a very clear objective here, which was to grow what we call our non-peak time, which is from October to May. And we set ourselves a target of 69%. And we came very, very close in 2022, but that was a bit of an anomaly. I think we all understand that the pent-up demand travels during the year, so it was always a bit of an anomaly. But I thought it was just worth pausing here and looking that we actually are going backwards slightly in terms of visitation in our non-peak time, and not something you can completely lay at Tourism Tofino speak for sure, but with the things like highways closing, the economic situation. But anyway, so our marketing team is all about trying to drive visitation in that non-peak time. We break the marketing plan basically into 3 distinct parts. So we have the brand and paid media side. So this is basically all the paid advertising that we do. Many of you will know we launched a new website this year in 2024, and we slightly sort of evolved the brand, the look and feel of Tourism Tofino. So next year we'll be rolling that out across all of our work. You'd expect to see paid branded advertising campaigns again for non-peak travel and in our key markets, which remain BC, Calgary, Edmonton, and the greater Seattle area. Working with airlines to raise awareness of air travel. So there'll be some campaigns with partners like Pacific Coastal and Harbour Air in 2025, and potentially another one that I'm not allowed to mention right now. Obviously continuing our work mostly with Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, but also Ahazit and Heshwe to raise awareness of their territories and Indigenous experiences at large. Leveraging our partnerships with Destination Canada and Destination BC to reach our long-haul markets. Again, our 4 key long-haul markets for Tofino being Ontario, California, the UK and Germany. And then finally supporting festivals and events in non-peak times with our event grant, which is the District of Tofino grant. So that's our paid. For digital, which is kind of our owned media, so our website, our blog, our newsletters, our social media channels. So really it's all around producing compelling content these days. It's very much short form video content. Across all of our own channels that feature member experiences, increasingly sustainability stories, Indigenous experiences, and suggested itineraries. And what we're looking for here is really strong engagement on our social channels. Now that the website's done, our next big job in owned media is to rebuild our e-newsletter audience. So at some point before I got here, Tourism Tofino let go of this consumer-facing e-newsletter, and we are very much trying to bring that back. And then continuing to build and optimize the new website that we have just launched. And then the third and final section of marketing, which again hasn't really changed dramatically from previous years. So this is kind of our earned media, if you will, so travel media communication. So we're constantly bringing out travel media to Tofino, but trying to do it thoughtfully and telling stories that align with our values, with our target audiences, and again, really looking for that non-peak coverage. And in 2025, really looking at put a focus on Indigenous tourism. Of course, we have our own corporate communication efforts and resident-facing and industry-facing things with water, which we'll talk about later. And then business development, so that's group travel, so trying to bring groups to Tofino to fill hotels and other accommodations in non-peak times during the week. So that's small business meetings, incentive travel, non-peak weddings and things of that nature. So that's a quick fly through of visitor services, of marketing. Now we jump into visitor services. Under visitor services here, again, from the 5-year strategic plan, we're trying to increase visitor spending, create longer stays and repeat visits. There was also a target attached to this with regards to how many physical or how many visitor interactions we have per year, and we're really coming up on that target of 70,000. Another goal in this area is building the sense of place in the Tofino Visitor Centre. So as you can appreciate, when this plan was written, the Visitor Centre was still relatively new. Again, there's not been a dramatic wholesale change in what we're doing in the visitor services front. We obviously want to make sure our staff are incredibly familiar with all things Tofino. We want to put winter and non-peak experiences and ideas in front of our summer visitors as much as physically possible. We want to continue to promote that we have visitor services and encourage folks to visit the visitor center, and continue to activate the visitor center with visitor facing workshops and presentations, which we've been doing for the last couple of years. We have a really cool project going on to continue to indigenize the visitor center, and of course continuing to focus on local artists in the gift shop there. And then moving into destination stewardship, which is kind of our third big category. So again, there were a bunch of goals and objectives attached to this area in the strategic plan, and not to go through them all, but we're talking about fostering experience development that connects our visitors to nature, culture, values, and people, reducing the impact of tourism on the natural environment and on our residents, coordinating tourism development and management with local governments, which is you find folk and members, and then improving connections with industry, community, First Nations, and tourism partners. So the tactical plan gets into, in this area, things like developing more opportunities for volunteerism experiences in Tofino. So we've been doing visitor-led beach cleans for years in this part of the world, but what is the next evolution of that, and how can we harness people's love of Tofino in other volunteerism opportunities? And there's some ideas around more remote beach cleans and packaging up as a tour and things like that. Leveraging our new website and new technology that exists to create itineraries, routes, and gamification to encourage people to disperse through the destination and to have a deeper experience. So we're playing with a new tool called Bandwango, which we're hoping to roll out for the Hot Cocoa Trail this December and see how that works. Obviously, we continue to financially support the Travel Park Allies program. We continue to support and promote new Indigenous experiences like Nauru. We continue to create tourism mentorship opportunities for First Nation members, including youth. For multiple years now, we've taken Indigenous folks to things like the International Indigenous Tourism Conference, for example. And continuing our commitment to delivering responsible visitor messaging, whether that's water conservation, know before you go, leave no trace, Coast Smart, Wild Safe BC, and increasingly we're wrapping all of that up in the lens of the First Nations Eastern Pledge. Other tactics in destination stewardship, engaging local youth on the West Coast in considering careers in tourism. We've been doing workforce attraction campaigns for years, trying to attract youth from all over the country to come and work here, but we have youth that aren't working in tourism, but how do we engage those folks? And so that's something we continue to look at, which is paired with our scholarship program, which will be entering its third year in 2025. Creating more opportunities for our members to connect. So we're going to have our first marketing symposium in Q1, where we're going to deliver all the latest market research and talk about where we're going with our marketing program and encouraging other businesses to share. Of course, we have our AGM, which is coming up in March. Sector roundtables we do with the Chamber of Commerce, a whole bunch of ways to do that. Continuing to be a strong local and regional partner, attending and facilitating meetings, trying as much as possible to improve the local understanding of tourism, what we do and why. Continuing to deliver timely information to our members and advocating for Tofino with First Nations, again with our local government, regional and provincial partners. We do have an administration function. It's the least sexy and boring part of tourism, but we should talk about it quickly. So the objectives here is really to operate with transparency, accountability, and in alignment with the objectives of the community. We had some objectives in the 5-year strategic plan, and got a bit of a progress update there. So we continue to have clean audited financials every year. There's some figures there around satisfaction of members of Tourism Tofino. And then we're built on our ocean friendly certification, or Travel Park Ally, and we actually just got a Wild Safe BC pledge.
Brad, I just have to interrupt for one. As exciting as the admin part is, your 10 minutes is up. How much more time would you need? Honestly,
that is it. Admin is boring. It's like being super accountable and it's variable.
The excitement never ends.
It's like, and we're done. Thank you.
Wow. That was exciting. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate very much. I'll leave it open to council if there are any questions. I really do appreciate coming in. We do have great Councillor Sloman does give us the updates from board meetings, so we feel well informed. Thank you for coming up for that. I'll look to council to see if there's any questions, comments, or Councillor Sawyer.
Cool, and through the chair, thanks so much for the presentation, and just wanted to let you know recently, just so much wonderful feedback on the beaded poppy workshop that Elizabeth George did. I had so many people in town telling me they made a poppy or they'd seen a poppy and how much fun they had. Yeah, thank you.
Faster.
You talk about focusing on our marketing on our major clients, which is Alberta, UK, California, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, identifying any new markets.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, so our key markets that we actively put money into is always going to be like the Pacific Northwest, like our drive market. So it's always going to be a bit of Seattle, bit of Alberta, and BC. And then because we don't have the money to play in like Europe and in the US and things like that, that's where our partnerships with like Destination BC and Destination Canada come into play. Largely, we're kind of tied to where they're playing and in what spaces they're playing, but those markets that I rattled off, Ontario is growing a lot for Tofino lately, in California in terms of North American markets, and then further afield, the ones we seem to be most interested in is Germany and the UK. I'm putting a big asterisk beside all this because there's a huge bunch of research we're about to publish at the end of this year, post-pandemic, about what the mix of visitors actually looks like now in 2024, which is we're basing a lot of these decisions from old data. But yeah, there are emerging markets. We were really excited, for example, at one point about China, and it's been a rocky road with China in terms of visas and various diplomatic things. Same with Mexico. Mexico has been on a huge upswing, but then there was recently some visa things as well. So we really look to our experts, which is Destination BC and Destination Canada, who play in those markets.
I was just thinking, this past summer I met more Texans on the beach than I've ever met. You know? And they were all trying to escape the heat.
Yeah, becoming more of a thing.
Nothing else. Well, thank you once again, Brad.
Awesome.
I appreciate it coming out. So with that, we'll move on to correspondence, and the first one was from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Okenji Yuma Mauricio, regarding our 2024 UBCM convention meeting. It was responding to our meeting with the minister there. I don't know if any comments from it. Was pretty straightforward. Not much could be done because there was an election coming up. Just an acknowledgement that we were that we had a good meeting and we want money for infrastructure. Nothing there. We'll move on with the Alberta-Tla-o-qui-aht Regional District regarding letters of support for the UBCM community to community grant funding application. I do, being your ACRD rep, I do know that there is a draft motion that is created. I think it would be well supported. The community to community, we have our own, and this is a regional approach as well. But I do think there is great value in those communication efforts. So I have a draft motion, if I can read from the chair, that staff be authorized to draft a letter to the Alberta-Tla-o-qui-aht Regional District to support their application for the UBCM Community to Community Grant Program. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I think you got in there first. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. And the last, we have a letter from Jay Belanger regarding flooding on Hellison and Cedarwood roads. And I know staff do have a comment on this, and maybe I'll look to council if there was any quick questions first. If not, if staff would like to maybe comment on the letter that was brought forward.
Okay, thank you, Chair Stere. I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Rogers for initial comments, and he may ask Mr. Kirkland to speak as well.
Great, thank you, Diana. To the chair, the council. I'm going to respond broadly to the letter, and then if council's interested, I might fill in a little bit of what we did before the storm, and then what our plan is moving forward. So I think the first thing I want to say in reference to the letter is that this is a very big storm. The river dumped a lot of water onto Tofino in a very short period of time. I don't think it's surprising it's a surprise anyone to hear from me that our current storm system is not built for that type of density of rainfall anywhere in the district. We knew that we were gonna have flooding in a number of areas, which we regularly see flooding, and we've been able to come to address those through some short and long-term programs. There is a statement in the letter that the development in the surrounding area made it worse than it was before. I can't comment on that. The areas that are flooded are areas that have always flooded. The areas that flooded at Helson Road in particular flooded in just the same way in the 2021 atmospheric river before the development of the most recent campground and or the other property mentioned. And so I can't say for certain whether those developments made it worse or better. It's a very flat area, it's the flattest area of Tofino, and it's at the lowest point. So we know we have an issue there, but I it's not proven that the recent development made it worse or better. We are working with Redfish, their CEPF grant to review the McKenzie Beach watershed, McKenzie Beach Creek watershed, with the aim of mitigating future flooding concerns. And so I think I spoke to this at the last meeting, but we will have fairly soon a report about what's happening in that area, and hopefully some possibilities for the future in terms of how do we improve the drainage in that system, what opportunities might be available for us. There is a request for a study. I'm not sure what the study would accomplish at this point. I'm not sure how I do it. I'm not sure how we pay for it in the first place. What happened was we got a large amount of rain in a short period of time for a system that's not designed for it and caused flooding, and flooding that's been occurring for decades at that location. Once we've done with once we finish the project with Redfish and the CEPF grant, the next step for the district will be a stormwater master plan, and that's going to help us understand our current system, where the improvements are going to need to be made based on new weather data, areas that we know have flooded in the past, and also at the same time allow us to fund C&I levy in such a way that allows us to improve the system over the years. I can say now from the seat that I'm sitting in is that we're underfunded in stormwater at this time with the C&I levy, but rather than rush out and do projects or make make big changes before we have that in place, I think we'd be irresponsible. So it's a hard thing to say, but I think we're going to have to just wait, spend the time, take this next year or two of planning, get a stormwater master plan in place, adjust our C&I levy, and be able to fund the projects we're going to have in place, and then move forward from that. The only caveat to that, as I said earlier, was we may get some funding through the CEPF grant to do some work in that area. We'll see what happens at the end of this. So that's just the response to the letter, and maybe I can stop there, and then I can go on and explain what we did pre the storm and post storm as well.
Great. Is there any questions at this point from council? I just want to comment, years ago, we had salmon going across the road there that we helped move across. So it has flooded in the past. So yeah, maybe if you would like to maybe the potential mitigation or the work that you've done at this point.
Great, thanks, Chad. So before the storm happened, we met as a team, and we organized ourselves to get ready for the areas that we were going to be most likely going to flood, and so we put some things in place. We prepped storm drains, prepped our utility plants. We had signs out at locations with flashers. We had a couple of miscues. We didn't have a pallet of sandbags ready to go. We've since addressed that for our next storm, that we'll always have sandbags available, both for our teams, but also for the public to pick up if they need to in the event that we're expecting an atmospheric river. We're going to do things like there's more flashers for our signs, purchase more signage, because we had we were pretty short due to the all the different areas we had to deal with. One other item we discussed was making sure that we plan to have a couple of days out. In the future, we're going to try to plan out a week out. We're also going to schedule in overtime. We had people on standby or on call who were available, but because we have the new treatment plan And because our skill set's slightly different, I probably would in the future plan just to have people there ready to go around and have them call people in, so that people aren't sitting around waiting for a phone call all day. So schedule overtime, probably likely to happen in the future. We get great response between our two departments at Infrastructure and Public Works. We had coordination between our leads and our 4 people, making sure that both teams were supported where they needed to be. This is a big range of also for things like open circuit plant for water qualities, and so we have our utility crews to do that, and then making sure that our labor and works crew had support. We went through, I won't go through all of it, but we went through the next couple days later, we went through all the areas that we either heard about or knew about and tried to address issues in the short, medium, and long term. And so we're working through that list now. Some projects may come back to council at some point, for smaller remediations. Some of the work that we're going to try to do will probably be in-house. For example, we heard Baleen flooded a bunch. We may try to get in there with our excavators, get some crap and figure out what's happening there. That's stuff that we can do in the short term. Bigger ones like Tellison, the gas station, are a little bit harder to deal with. But again, that's just kind of goes back where the comments of, how do you figure out what the actual stormwater plan is going to be. Wastewater treatment plant operated well. We learned some things about our systems that our teams are already programming in, so just quicker response times with certain equipment. We had reportable spills throughout the system because of how much water we were receiving. We had a reportable spill on Maltby coming in from Taipan and Sesawista, so there's a lot of I&I coming in from there likely. Station 11, Mid-Chesterton also overflow. We're not sure exactly why there. We think there's an I&I coming problem we have there. So we're looking at things like smoke testing, maybe caulking through hole. It's very detailed. We're looking at maybe see if we can get small infrastructure improvements there, and then potentially smoke testing to see if we're getting drainage from private residences into our storm system or into our sewer system. And then Main Street was another, the brand new station is fairly large. We have this report still there as well. We have the bypass connected into the ocean anyways, and that was, we think, speaking of the extreme low of my user, I do have Mr. Perkin here that fill in gas, but is from what Perkin and the team have explained to me, that we think we have a number of breaks up 4th Street that are just collecting, like storm breaks that are collecting kind of runoff and then overwhelming our station. So these are all items that we're going to be looking at or will look at. We'd already planned to do some improvements on the sewer system up 4th anyways this fall. But that's just sort of adds a little bit more motivation. The teams will work together to take all the stuff we learned and update our SOPs. And then, like I said, we have a number of sort of internal action items to get moving on. So that's what happened. We think we'll be better the next time, but the real fixes won't come until probably after we get a master plan in place and fund some of that storm infrastructure.
Thank you, Howard. I'll look to looking down. We'll start. Well, maybe we'll just go down the Councilor Randall.
Yeah, these are unfortunate events, and they are recurring. A couple of I guess questions I have. I'm just wondering what the timeline on the stormwater master plan would be. I think that would be some comfort to the letter writers to know what when we might look at that. And the other question I have is what drainage are we relying on for that area? Is it just the creek, or is there some ditching? So those are my questions.
Great questions. I was gonna prep my answer because I knew that you were gonna ask about the stormwater. I think it's 26 or 27. I want to say 26. I don't know, Mr. Kirkland can confirm on a project sheet. We'll go right back to you on that one. I believe it's 26. And then in terms of Kennedy Creek watershed, it's a combination of natural creek, culverts, some ditches. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the system, but it's sort of there's one tributary that begins up in Ocean Park, goes across the highway towards the beach, And there's a stream that comes off of what we all call Moose Land, and that all collects in and around Ellison, in and around Mackenzie Beach Road, flows through Pinwis, flows through where the King Beach Lodge property with Crystal Cove, over to the highway, to the McInnes property, over to the highway, under the highway, and it exits right by Live to Surf, so it's the south of Live to Surf, goes across under Sharp Road, and then exits out through private property to the ocean. So it literally does a tour of that area. And what's very interesting, what I find interesting is that you think that it was meant to drain to the ocean, but the course is actually back to the inlet is where it drains. It travels that area, which is why we have salmon in there. And the salmon, they're like I walked through with one of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation public works manager last year, and we saw salmon. It's still salmon bearing stream, and and as you get through many areas, it's not even a distinct stream. It's a graded stream. So I don't know if you see that, but when it comes up, the whole force looks like it's a lake, and then it goes away. You might get a small little stream, but that's how it works. So I don't know, I couldn't say in percentages how much is natural. A lot of it is. But every time we cross under a road is kind of where we worry about things like pinch points and such. And so right now, with the limited knowledge we have, we are focusing on that culvert that goes under Cedarwood, which is the access to the property that was the letter writer was laying from. And we are looking at potentially that Modi culvert up downstream of that under the highway before it ends. We think we have a problem there, but we're not sure exactly what it is yet. And so we're hoping the work we do with Redfish can kind of shed some light on that. We've walked the stream already. Our team has anyways with their GIS tools to try to get elevations to try to figure out what's happening. So that work is still ongoing as I understand it.
Okay. I'll just add to that there was a flooding problem on mid Chestermans not long ago, and during this event that flooding problem didn't come back because of a culvert that was put in. So these are things that we need to look at, and I wouldn't mind speeding up the timeline. So follow up. Thanks.
Councillor Paul?
Mr. Rogers actually answered in his description. So.
Now to the other end of the table, no question. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. And you answered the questions that I had as well. Having a long experience with Mackenzie Creek, and we've been working on that for 30 years. And we've had a small trap on there and doing the salmon enumeration work on there for a long time. So very familiar with it. So thank you for that work. I just one practical question on the sandbags. I know that they're available to the public. Is that at the public works yard that and the public can come up there and access those at your location there?
Yeah, exactly. And so something we'll put out, in our communications, we can get a little bit better as well, just make sure people know that's a possibility. For this event, we had I think two residents come up and we filled sandbags for them at the time. So we still made it available. Somebody just wasn't as easy to hear sandbag. We actually got out there and our labor parks or facilities people were filling the sandbags that the gentleman there.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, that's it for our correspondence, and I do appreciate the information there. There was a lot to it, and a lot of comprehensive work has been done. We know that, and we know there's more to be done. So thank you. Presentations and reports. Well, 2025 council member appointments. We have a report from Corporate Services, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Stere. No formal report this evening. This is an annual appointment, and we did take council's appointments tonight.
Okay, great. So there, Councillor Sawyer, before I jump in.
Yeah, I just want to speak to this point on the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board. I've been trustee on the board for 2 years now. Thank you to Councillor McMaster for allowing me to do so. And I'm also serving on the executive board and have been asked to run again for that next year. So I would greatly appreciate being appointed to this again this year.
Excellent. If there's, maybe I'll just look out to the rest of council if there's any Anybody else that would be interested? If not, I'll just read from the chair that Councillor Sawyer be appointed as trustee and Councillor McMaster, are you still? And Councillor McMaster be appointed as alternate to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board of Trustees beginning January 1st, 2025 for a term ending earliest of council appoints another council member. The council member ceases to hold office. The council member is removed for causes provided under the Library Act. December 31st, 2026. We'll have this conversation again.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Next up on the agenda, service provider agreement amendments for Tofino Recreational Instructors Group Insurance. And I see Cindy heading up to the podium. Thank you.
Council, I am providing a brief presentation of the service provider agreement amendments in your package. So to get started, the Tofino Recreation Instructor Group is an established group under our MIA-BC, or Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia's associate member program. And this was established in 2017. And this allows us to enter into single service provider agreements to provide liability coverage for our volunteer coaches, contractors, or individuals where the cost of getting individual liability insurance may be prohibitive. Within the package, there is the current service provider agreement, or also known as a SPA. And then the proposed amendments. And so the current service provider agreement does list out quite a detailed list of activities, and they were kind of held to those specific activities. This service provider agreement was provided by Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia in 2017. And as part of that process, the measures that were put in place to reduce liability exposure for the district was to have regular meetings for contractors and volunteers annually. So the proposed amendments coming forward are really to remove the detailed activities in the SPA agreement, and instead just provide the overarching categories. And so staff, when we were proposed with actually skateboarding, to provide skateboarding at the school, now that we have access to the underground area. Skateboarding is not listed in this, in the current SPA. And so staff reached out to Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia and asked how we could add that into the list. And their recommendation was to actually move away from a very detailed list and instead provide overarching categories. And so that you will see as one of the proposed amendments. And then some of the language, there were some additions to the MIA template that they provided as well. So that was also a change added. And then for liability exposure control, staff, so originally all the people within the Tofino Recreation Instructor Group were to meet regularly, but that was pretty difficult with everybody's very busy schedules. So instead, the service provider agreement, what we're proposing is the service provider agreement that's entered into annually with each instructor has a term of 1 year, and at that point we are providing a one-on-one safety orientation to review all the materials and basically allow us to connect and provide expectations on what we expect them to be for our community and our programs. And so this will occur every year if they continue to be instructors or under the Tofino Recreation Instructor Group. So those are the proposed amendments, so pretty straightforward. And so the recommendation before council tonight is that the service provider agreement for the Tofino Recreation Instructor Group attached as Appendix 1 to the staff report service provider agreement amendments for the Tofino Recreation Instructor Group insurance dated November 12th, 2024, be amended and drafted. Be amended as drafted.
Thank you, Cindy. I'll look to council if there is any questions. Councillor Sawyer.
I just had a question. What would the change in coverage cost be moving from the specific categories to a more open category?
No change in cost.
Okay, excellent, thanks.
Thank you. And Cindy, thank you for this. It is, we know it's an important piece of support for our volunteers and the contract. I know, having been one, that can be onerous for you on their own. So thank you for continuing on that. I'll look to council for the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Sawyer.
I will read it. I move that the service provider agreement for the Tofino Recreational Instructor Group attached as Appendix 1 to staff report. Service provider agreement amendments for the Tofino Recreational Instructor Group insurance dated November 12th, 2024 be amended as drafted and approved.
Second by Councillor McMaster. All in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Now, we're into bylaws. Wow, this is moving good. There's only one bylaw to adopt. Is there any presentation on this, or should we just move right into the recommendation? Excellent. I'll just move from the chair. The district I'll make a motion that the District of Tofino Business License Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 123902/2024 be adopted. Seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any questions or comments?
I'm just going to say that I'm still uncomfortable with the verbiage of increasing it every year. I think it does a real disservice to our business members that we are not taking the time to review this. And we're not committing to taking the time to review it. And we are just assuming an increase in cost year over year after year. I know it's not the time for discussion, so just comment.
Yeah, no, great, thank you. We have had the discussions, and if I was to look, maybe I'll just look to staff for clarification on that, because my understanding is, and I did have my understanding is we will be reviewing in 2026 that particular, and I know in the motion there it may be, so maybe just a quick clarification from staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair Stere. There is a commitment from staff based on a resolution from council when the bylaw was introduced and received first three readings, that staff would bring back a review of.
I'm still not comfortable with the bylaw.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the comment. Did I call the question now? All those in favor? Any opposed? To oppose, motion carried. We're now, there is no unfinished business. We do have business initiated by council members. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Thomas regarding the AVICC resolution.
Thank you. I just wanted to discuss the possibility of bringing a resolution forward to AVICC. The deadline for submitting to them is early February, which is a really short time frame for the meetings that we have between now and then. I was just thinking about some of our ways that we're trying to deal with climate and water, and coming out of UBCM and drought being kind of an overarching theme of the week, and hearing about how there's limited funding for infrastructure and things of that nature, and how individual municipalities have been doing funding of residential rainwater catchment. I thought perhaps it might be time to approach the province and ask if they would be able to provincially provide funding for residential rainwater catchment. My hope was to bring it forward and then come up with a way how we can draft it, so I don't have a specific resolution for AVICC completely hashed out. I wasn't entirely sure of the process for going about that, so I'm going to bring it forward for discussion. There is a motion on this just because I had to throw it on, but the notice of motion here, I don't think it's something that necessarily should have to fall on staff. Maybe it's something that staff and council can work on together, or we strike a committee on, but yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. I'm just going to quickly look to staff, because I know that there is good support in this resolution process, so maybe I'll look over to Nyla to see. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Stere, and I think that staff can support this if council supports the notice of motion. Any notice of motion would be referred to staff, and we'll find the right staff to work on it if it's approved. So I'm not concerned about putting resources on that.
Like, is there any other questions?
I have
Yeah,
a
sorry.
comment.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I really support this motion, and I also think that rainwater catchment can also be used to mitigate storm water runoff in times of excess water or excess water.
Great. Yeah, no, this is Councilor Master.
Well, I just wanted to clarify whether when you say residential, you just mean homeowners, or you would this apply to condo developments or apartment blocks, things like that?
My hope would be that it would also apply to condo buildings, or, you know, residential in nature. Mainly the reason I used residential as the term was because there was a UBCM resolution that was endorsed where people were asking for agricultural. And the feedback from the province was that the amount of water or the infrastructure that was needed to use rainwater to support that level of business wasn't viable. So I think in a smaller sense, I know I live in a condo building and we've talked about putting rainwater catchment over like our garbage shed. So I think there are things in that way that could be utilized.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm generally support. I just wondered if you'd have an explanation what residential means. That's
Yeah,
all.
I think residential just meant for me, not businesses, and just trying to keep it in the scope of what I think is viable and what hopefully the province also says, hey, yes, that's viable.
Good.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Should I modify that recommendation because it says directed to prepare a resolution? Okay, thank you.
That's okay, yeah.
I move that staff be directed to prepare a resolution funding of residential rainwater catchment to be submitted to AVICC before the deadline of February 6, 2025.
Second by Councilor McMaster. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carried. I will look over to staff to see, because it is question period time.
Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, there's further business initiated. I just went with the one, but there's more. Sorry, Councilor Sloman, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so on the Tourism Tofino board attended a retreat on Sunday, the 27th at the Black Rock. We reviewed the 2022-2027 strategic plan. And we also reviewed the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People and how it relates to the strategic plan. In the afternoon, we had a presentation from the Destination Think. We had discussions on the board's role and support for the Destination Stewardship Plan process and potential focus areas for that.
Thank you, Councilor Sloman. See, I told you we get updated regularly and thoroughly. Thank you. Is there any other business I should have asked? Is there any other business from council? Right. I then will look to staff because it is our favorite question period time.
Thank you, Chair Stere. I will now make an open call for questions to members of the public present in the gallery and those attending online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to ask a question, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before asking a question, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you are speaking to. I will now do a call calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No questions, Chair Stere.
So we are going to move into closed session now. One of the members of council would love to read out the recommendation. Thank you, Councilor Sawyer.
I move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91A, C, G, and L of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent, employee relations, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98 annual municipal report.
Second by Councilor McMaster. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. We can close now.